Have you ever wondered why people treat you the way they do? Why they interrupt you mid-sentence, as if your voice holds no weight? Why, in a group, your presence fades into the background, like you're just a shadow seen, but not really noticed? Why they forget your name, your stories, your pain, while remembering everyone else with ease? Why your sensitivity is mocked, your pain dismissed, your decisions ridiculed? Or worse, why some people use you, drain your energy, your kindness, your loyalty, and then vanish, as if you were never more than a convenient tool? Maybe, just maybe, you're the one who's always available. The one who says yes when you're exhausted. The one who stays silent to avoid tension. The one who forgives, instantly even, when no one has asked for forgiveness. And what do you get in return? Cold shoulders, dismissive silence, a growing sense of being overlooked, maybe even invisible. And here's the part that cuts the deepest. Deep inside, you know you're not being respected, but you don't know why. You don't know how to stop it. So you keep trying to be patient, understanding, agreeable, hoping that one day someone will finally see your worth. But that day never comes. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And perhaps that's where the root lies. Because truly respecting yourself, that means turning inward. It means acknowledging the uncomfortable truth that you might be playing a role in your own suffering. That as long as you ignore your own needs, your own voice, your own limits, others will too. This video isn't here to give you quick fix affirmations. It won't paint you as a helpless victim. It will take you to the core of the problem, one that lives much closer than you'd like to admit. If you're tired of being disrespected by friends, family, partners, or even co-workers, it's time to understand why this keeps happening. And more importantly, it's time to reclaim control over your emotional reality. Together, we'll explore Carl Jung's deep psychological insights to uncover why you tolerate the intolerably and how to break free from that cycle once and for all. Because as long as you continue to betray yourself, no one else will treat you with dignity. Are you ready to finally say what you've been too afraid to admit, even to yourself? Because maybe, just maybe, the chaos around you isn't just bad luck. It's a brutal mirror, reflecting back the parts of yourself you've long ignored. So before we move forward, ask yourself this: do people truly disrespect you because they're cruel? Or are they simply responding to the silence? Where your boundaries should be. The world sees you exactly as you present yourself. That's the truth we often don't want to face. This isn't about blaming you, it's about awakening. The lack of respect you feel from others might not come from cruelty or carelessness. It may come from a series of silent agreements you've made with yourself over the years. Agreements that told you to stay quiet, to keep the peace, to give in to be accepted, to trade honesty for harmony. Maybe, as a child, you were taught that being good meant being invisible, that being loved meant pleasing others, that to avoid rejection, you had to say yes even when your whole being screamed no. Over time, these lessons didn't fade. They settled deep within you and began to operate on autopilot. Without realizing it, you began living by scripts that no longer serve you. They whisper behind every decision, every relationship, every moment you bite your tongue. You've come to believe often, unconsciously, that your worth depends on the approval of others. And this hidden belief distorts everything. It shapes how you speak, how you carry yourself, even how you let others treat you. Not because you want to seem small, but because it has become second nature. A deeply rooted habit that plays out without awareness, And as long as this remains in the dark and examined and unspoken, the cycle will continue. You can switch jobs, cities, or even partners, but the pattern will follow you, because it lives inside you, not outside. Carl Jung once said, "What is not brought to consciousness appears in our lives as fate, until you take a clear look at the beliefs you carry about yourself. You will keep repeating experiences that reinforce your own invisibility. Life will keep handing you versions of the same lesson, again and again. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe you deserve. And the most powerful beliefs are the ones buried deep in the unconscious. But here's the turning point. There is a way out. It begins at the most uncomfortable place of all within yourself. It starts when you stop looking outward for permission to feel worthy. When you stop begging for respect and start building it from the inside out. Which brings us to a question that very few people have the courage to ask themselves, but one that defines the entire emotional arc of a life. Why are you still trying to prove your worth? Because for so long, that's exactly what you've been doing, trying to prove you're good enough. You've worked tirelessly to be the perfect child, the flawless partner, the friend who never lets anyone down. You've bent, adjusted, and reshaped yourself to fit what others expected. And what did you get in return? At best, momentary approval, but never lasting respect. Because when you live to please, people see you as someone easy to mold, not someone to admire. This is the trap of external validation, one of the most seductive and invisible forces in the human psyche. Carl Jung taught us about the persona, the social mask we wear to be accepted. It's necessary in life, but dangerously deceptive. Because when you over-identify with that mask, you forget who you are underneath it. And once you forget, you disconnect from your core. You become polite, agreeable, even likable. But slowly, invisibly, you turn into a ghost. A version of yourself that satisfies everyone, but earns true respect from no one. The need to be accepted is human. It's wired into our psychology. But the problem begins when that need becomes your compass. When you start measuring your self-worth by how others react to you, your identity becomes fragile. A compliment lifts you up. A criticism tears you apart. And so, you overcompensate, trying harder, being more useful, more perfect, more essential, believing that only through flawless performance will you finally be respected. But here's the brutal truth. The more you try to prove your worth, the more you silently confirm to the world that you doubt it yourself. Now let's take that truth one step deeper. Because beneath this pattern lies something even more powerful, something few ever uncover. True self-respect cannot coexist with the need to constantly prove your worth. That's the quiet truth at the heart of everything we've just uncovered. People who respect themselves don't beg for attention. They don't do favors with the secret hope of being loved in return. They don't feel the need to diminish themselves just to be seen, or erase who they are in order to be liked. They know who they are, and that is enough. Their identity doesn't rely on applause or approval. They've let go of the need to be pleasing at all costs, because they understand a difficult truth. Sometimes, living with integrity means someone else will be disappointed, and that's okay. But to arrive at this place of calm, rooted self-worth, you must confront one of the deepest illusions we've been taught, that respect must be earned from others, that you need to work for it, prove yourself constantly, and shapeshift into whatever version others prefer. This belief runs deep, and it keeps many people locked in patterns of people-pleasing for years, sometimes forever. But the truth is different. You don't need to earn anyone's respect. What you need, perhaps what you've needed all your life, is to rebuild the respect you lost for yourself. Whether that loss happened recently or in childhood, the result is the same. Without self-respect, the eyes of others become a threat. Their opinions feel like judgment. But when you begin to restore your own sense of dignity, something shifts. Other people's reactions no longer define youth. They merely reflect who you've become inside. And this change begins with a choice. Not a grand gesture or a dramatic transformation, but a small, quiet decision that may feel terrifying if you're caught in the cycle of constant approval. It begins with a single word. No. In the next section. We'll explore that critical moment when you start setting boundaries, not out of anger or fear, but as an act of love. The moment you place yourself, perhaps for the very first time, at the center of your own life, because that's exactly where respect begins, when you discover that the word no can be the most powerful gesture of self-love. If what you're hearing resonates with you, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your support. It helps us bring these life-changing conversations to more people who need them. Now here's something else you've probably been taught, that being a good person means never creating conflict, that love requires constant self-sacrifice, that people who set boundaries are selfish, distant, or cold. So what happens? Every time something hurts or bothers you, you swallow it. You minimize it. You forgive before the other person even knows they've done harm. You tell yourself you're being mature, compassionate, balanced. But in reality, something deeper is happening. You're erasing yourself, piece by piece. Day by day, you're disappearing from your own life. And the world doesn't respect people who don't respect themselves. Because respect is not something you ask for. It's not something you beg for. It's not something you negotiate. Respect is something you claim. You impose it not through violence or anger, but through firmness, clarity, and consistency. It begins with a decision that your well-being is not optional, that your time is valuable, that your energy is not a resource to be endlessly drained. And the first visible, tangible act of this decision is saying no. Saying no is how you begin to draw the invisible line between what's acceptable and what isn't. It's how you show yourself and the world that you exist, and that your needs matter. But the moment you begin to do this, something else will rise within you. Guilt. That familiar, insidious voice will appear every time you say no to someone who's used to hearing yes. Guilt will whisper that you're being unfair, selfish, or dramatic. It will try to lure you back to the comfort of overgiving. So, the real question is, how do you break free from guilt and finally give yourself permission to protect your own space? Let's talk about that in the next section. Saying no isn't just a boundary, it's the beginning of reclaiming your self-worth. Carl Jung reminds us that the journey of individuation, the path of becoming your truest self, requires confrontation. And one of the first confrontations is with the version of you that learned to survive by always saying yes. That part of you still believes that pleasing others is the only way to be accepted, to be safe, to be loved. But what that version of you doesn't realize is that this kind of acceptance comes at a very steep price. Your self-worth, your dignity, your very identity. Do you truly want to be respected? Then you must begin in the most uncomfortable place by saying no, where you used to automatically say sure. Say no to tasks that drain you of life. Say no to invitations that feel like obligation. Say no to the people who only call when they need something. Distance yourself from relationships that exhaust you, that demand more than they give, that require you to shrink just to maintain peace and pay attention. Because the first people who will be bothered by your new boundaries are the ones who benefited the most from your lack of them. Your no will expose their overreach. Your refusal will make visible what they preferred to stay hidden, the ways in which they took advantage of your silence. That truth may sting. It may hurt them, it may hurt you, but it is a necessary pain, the kind that heals rather than harms. You must come to understand something vital. Every time you say no to what hurts you, you are saying yes to yourself. And that yes is not selfish, it's sacred. It's the seed of transformation. It marks the rebirth of your personal authority, the return of your voice, and the start of a new way of existing, one that is not dependent on the permission or approval of others. But if that sounds impossible or terrifying, there may be a deeper reason behind it, one that has nothing to do with weakness and everything to do with what you've hidden from yourself. There's a part of your mind that resists setting boundaries, a part that doesn't believe you're allowed to say no, and that resistance lives in your unconscious, in the very places you avoid looking. It hides in what Jung called your shadow, the collection of parts of yourself that you've repressed, denied, or buried over the years. And even though you try to ignore them, those hidden aspects continue to influence your life in silence. In the next section, we're going to dive into that shadow, because if you've ever wondered why you tolerate what clearly hurts you, why you stay in friendships or relationships that diminish your spirit, or why you keep silent in environments that suffocate your authenticity, the answers don't only lie in your upbringing or past trauma or current circumstances. They lie in what you've rejected within yourself. Jung defined the shadow as everything you learned to see as unacceptable. Emotions you were punished for expressing, desires you were told were shameful, impulses you were taught to suppress. Maybe, as a child, you said no and were scolded, so you learned to be agreeable. Maybe you showed anger and were shut down, so you learned to smile while choking back your tears. Maybe you simply needed attention but were ignored, and so you made yourself invisible so as not to be a burden. And so, over the years, you built a polite, pleasant, accommodating persona, one that everyone approved of. But in doing so, you buried your fire, your natural strength, your right to say enough. But here's the truth. What is buried does not disappear. In fact, it grows stronger in the dark. And now the question becomes, how do you begin to integrate what you've buried and allow your shadow to empower you instead of control you? We'll explore that next. The parts of yourself you buried in the dark didn't die, they learned how to survive in silence. That's where your shadow lives, in the hidden corners of your psyche, gaining strength in the underground of your soul. It may be quiet, but it's not inactive. It's the one that sabotages you at the exact moment you try to stand up for yourself. It's the whisper that says, "Better not," just when you're about to speak your truth. It's the invisible force that paralyzes you when everything inside you screams, "Enough." Double quotes, think about it. How many times have you wanted to speak, but chose silence instead? How many times have you swallowed your pride just to preserve a peace that was never truly yours? How often have you allowed someone to cross your boundaries and afterward felt used, dirty, small? You tolerate what should be intolerable not because you're weak, but because you've become disconnected from something vital inside yourself. You've been conditioned to reject the very parts of you that once protected your dignity, your firmness, your anger, your right to say no. Those traits were labeled as bad, unlovable, or too much. And so, you buried them. You still believe that to be loved, you must be passive. That to keep a relationship, you must make yourself smaller. But that belief is a liar leftover script, like outdated software still running quietly in the background of your mind. Until you confront that programming, you'll keep reliving the same painful story again and again. Different names, different faces, but the same wounds. New friendships, yet the same subtle contempt. A new job, yet the same feeling of being taken for granted. A new romantic partner, yet that same old ache of being unseen, unheard, invisible. Want a real-world example? Think back to a time you went out of your way to help someone, maybe even sacrificed something important to do it, hoping deep down for acknowledgement or appreciation. But instead of gratitude, all you got was indifference, or worse, new demands. And you said nothing. You just carried the bitterness inside, pretending it didn't matter. Or maybe you were disrespected in public by a boss, a partner, or a friend, and you forced a smile, swallowed your anger, and convinced yourself that it wasn't worth the fight. But the truth is, that kind of silence isn't strength. It's not wisdom. It's submission, dressed up as maturity. And it comes directly from your shadow. Jung said, what you do not accept in yourself controls you. That's the core of this truth. Your repressed anger becomes passivity. Your buried firmness turns into fear. Your silenced voice becomes anxiety. You end up trapped, imprisoned, not by others, but by the parts of yourself you've exiled. And as long as you keep running from these hidden aspects, you'll live at the mercy of everyone around you, waiting, hoping, praying that someone will finally treat you with the respect you haven't yet allowed yourself to claim. But there is a way out, and it begins with a courageous act. Integration. You must choose to face the shadow, not to become cold or aggressive or harsh, but to finally become whole. Because before you can demand respect from the world, you must first reclaim something far more important, your inner power. And where is that power hiding? In the place you've been avoiding your entire life. If this video is striking a nerve, if it's saying things you've tried not to hear, it's likely because you're ready to take the next step. To guide you on that journey, I've created a direct, honest, and deeply transformative ebook called Beyond the Shadow. In it, I explore Jung's most powerful ideas and show you, step by step, how to confront your shadow, reclaim your inner strength, and finally break free from the invisible cycle of submission that's been holding you back. In the next part, we'll begin that journey together. True self-respect doesn't begin with others. It begins with your actions, day by day, moment by moment. In the choices you make when no one's watching, respect isn't something you demand. It's something you build from within through consistent, deliberate action. If you're tired of being treated as if you don't matter, you need to start showing up like someone who does. And no, it won't happen overnight, but it will happen with practice, with daily, conscious repetition. Here are 5 powerful tools you can begin using right now to rebuild the respect you've lost, for yourself and for the world around you. 1. Use discomfort as your compass. Whenever something feels wrong, pause. Don't rush to justify it. Don't excuse the other person's behavior. Don't immediately try to smooth things over. Ask yourself, if I truly respected myself right now, what would I do? Maybe the answer is to leave the conversation. Maybe it's setting a boundary, not replying to a message, or turning down an invitation. Whatever the answer is, follow it. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's your internal alarm system, warning you that you're betraying yourself again. 2. Stop over-explaining. You don't owe anyone a 3-paragraph essay just to say no. When you over-justify, you're communicating guilt or insecurity, and that energy invites disrespect. Respect starts with simplicity and strength. Practice saying things like, "I can't, that doesn't work for me," or "I'm not comfortable with that," period. The people who push you for explanations are often the ones used to crossing your boundaries. Let your firmness speak for itself. 3. Put yourself on your own schedule. Open your calendar. Look at your week. Where are you in it? How many hours are actually devoted to your needs, your rest, your joy, your growth? If the answer is 0, that's not just an oversight. It's a form of internal disrespect. Begin blocking time for yourself, not as a reward, but as a responsibility. Even 1 hour a day dedicated to your well-being can start to rewire the way you see yourself. 4. Replace reactivity with intentional pause. When someone disrespects you, you might be tempted to explode or shut down. Neither is healthy. Instead, stop, breathe, then speak clearly. "I do not accept being spoken to like that," or "This is not okay with me." Don't apologize for feeling hurt. Don't soften the truth to make someone else comfortable. Speaking with clarity and calmness teaches others how to treat you and teaches you how to honor yourself. 5. Surround yourself with people who elevate you. Take a look at your environment. Do the people around you value you? Do they see your worth, or do they only show up when they need something from you? The company you keep is part of your self-respect list. Learn to step away quietly from those who take more than they give. You'll be surprised who notices your absence and who never truly saw you in the first place. These practices aren't complicated. What makes them difficult is the emotional pattern you've been running for years. Pleasing to be accepted, staying silent to feel safe, saying yes to avoid guilt. Breaking that pattern takes repetition, courage, and patience. But here's the secret. The more you honor yourself in the small moments, the less room the world has to dishonor you in the big ones. And yet, even when you begin to respect yourself, there's one final barrier that can pull you back: the fear of being alone. Emotional dependency is the last chain that keeps you stuck in old patterns. In the next part, we'll confront this fear, because only those who no longer rely on others' approval to know their worth can ever be truly respected. There comes a point when blaming others stops serving you. When waiting for someone to see your value becomes a form of self-abandonment. The world isn't ignoring you. It's simply responding to how you show up. You want to be heard, but you keep silencing yourself. You want to be loved, but you accept crumbs. You want to be seen, but you hide in the background of your own life. And then you wonder why no one respects you. The truth is difficult, but it's necessary. The way others treat you is a reflection of how you've been treating yourself. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The disrespect, the repetition, the pain, they aren't just bad luck. They're a mirror. And that mirror only changes when you do. You don't need to become cold or hard to earn respect. You just need to stop asking for love through obedience. Stop molding yourself to environments that punish authenticity. And most of all, make peace with solitude. Because only those who are whole can stand to be alone. And only those who are comfortable in their own company can choose relationships freely. Not out of fear or need, but from genuine connection. Everything else, that's not love. That's dependence in disguise. From this point forward, every time someone crosses your boundary, you have two choices. Stay silent and reinforce the old pattern. They take a stand and write a new chapter. You don't have to be loud or cruel or dramatic. You only need to be honest. Because once you begin to respect yourself, everything changes. Your presence changes. Your posture changes. Your energy changes. And yes, the world notices. Respect begins within. And when it does, you no longer need to ask for it. It becomes inevitable. If this video touched something in you, if it made you pause, reflect, or face a truth you've been avoiding, then take the first step right now. Leave a comment below. I choose to respect myself. Let that be your public commitment to your transformation. And if you're ready to go even deeper, don't stop here. The next video continues this path and offers tools just as important as the ones you've learned today. Keep going. You deserve to return to yourself.